And we have about 30 minutes, which is a healthy amount of time, and we're moving to the meat and bones of the blockchain, which is to do with trade and arbitration. And we have a great panel here. I think something I'd like to do is invite questions via Twitter. If you want to use the hashtag, maybe Gibfin. I'll pick up questions here as the panel talks, and see if there are any juicy nuggets which we can pitch into the conversation. So I'm going to pass over to the panel now, and just for introductory reflections on the topic, and to say a bit more about themselves.
Hello, my name is Vasily Alexeyev, and I'm the Chief Technological Officer of a new fintech startup named Serenity Financial. We aim to make a distributed regulation for the forex market, so for the retail brokerages which work all over the world, especially in South Asia, because they don't have any official regulation there, for example in China and Indonesia. And so the traders in these countries do not really trust the local companies. That's what we are trying to fix. We're trying to make an independent system which any brokerage, even small ones, can join and prove to their clients that they are honest, that they can be trusted with money.
Hi, I'm Jacob. I'm the co-founder of BrickBlock. So what is BrickBlock about? BrickBlock is actually a platform which has 3 asset classes. The first one is real estate. The second one are ETFs, which are exchange-traded funds. And the third thing is crypto funds. So you actually apply the exchange-traded fund structure, which is from the financial industry, to the cryptocurrency market. So these are the 3 asset classes which we offer, but we don't offer them by ourselves. We offer them by brokers and fund managers. And on the other side, we have the investors. So we connect investors to crowdfund, or like to invest into these whole asset classes, or like into the classes. And our first project is actually starting this year in December, and we are selling the first tokenized real estate on the blockchain, and this will be an apartment building with over 1,500 square meters. Yeah, standing in Berlin, already rented out, and this will be our pilot project. And as soon as this goes well, we hope to continue that.
Yeah, hi, my name is Vitaly. I've just been here. I work for CX.io. We are a cryptocurrency exchange incorporated in the UK. We are on the market since 2013. Once we've developed and managed the biggest cloud mining pool in the world called Ghash.io. And yeah, we eventually decided to pivot to cryptocurrency exchange, so we are pretty big.
Like, pass the microphone so you can go. We need music as well. Now, let me read out a statement, getting back to the topic, and see what your reaction is. I want to see to what extent cost is the driver in the issue of trade and the blockchain. But first of all, I wanted to get a grasp in who's in the audience. How many people would consider them very savvy on the question of cryptocurrencies and the blockchain technology, or distributed ledger technology? How many people? Nobody. A few. So then, most people, a lot of this terminology is quite new to them. Yeah, okay. Savvy, yeah, well known, yeah. Okay, so let me read a statement here and see what the guys say. So, parties around the world enter into agreements which can be arbitrated and enforced at a very low cost. Is that one of the main drivers?
Well, yes, I completely agree with that. I think that's what makes our project possible, because we can use smart contracts to provide full guarantees that the money cannot go to some third party. They can only go to the brokerage company or back to the trader if and we can make that decision by using our arbitration committee.
Yeah, I would agree to that. So the use of smart contracts actually allow us to reduce the minimum investment amounts which you regularly had to invest. For example, let's take the topic of real estate. When you want to buy into a real estate, I was a real estate developer for the last 5 years. You would have to have like a big amount of money, which you had to invest into a real estate to then develop it. So it excluded a lot of people from investing into real estate. So it was actually just possible for the financial class to invest in certain asset classes. And right now, with the use of smart contracts and the blockchain, we are able to split the costs of investing to a lot of people. So people with also $10 or $100 are actually able to invest in something that it wasn't there before. And to get on the second topic, it's global. And I think global is a very good word. That we were compared also like to some crowdfunding platforms. For example, yeah, there is already like a crowdfunding platform in London, for example, or like in the UK. But I think when you build on the blockchain technology, you implement already that it's global. So there are like people from all over the world already using the system, developing it, and generating a common interest and a trusted system. And so I think, yeah, it's definitely fitting this argument.
Yeah, that's true. And referring to the previous topic, like you said, a lot of people now can afford to invest in properties. The same thing happened with the ICOs, basically. A kid somewhere in India can now invest in a tech company wherever in the world. So, yeah, that's...
So guys, I started with costs. You jumped to my next question, which was borderless and across borders. Which is the bigger driver? Lower costs or seamless across borders?
I think the global part of that is more important because today I think a lot of companies that start with using blockchain technology try to fit that blockchain technology even where it doesn't actually fit. So sometimes it's for specifically like low margin businesses. Blockchain doesn't really fit too well. So I think global thing is way more important in that case.
Okay, and sorry.
Yeah, I would have a contradictory argument. So I think it's people are actually drawn to a technology when it is improved, and by improvement, normally it's in correlation to how expensive something is. And so when something is getting really cheap and it's available for everyone, I think this is the driver for a global movement which we experienced with blockchain. So, for example, when you take the SWIFT transaction, what costed 10 euros, 15 euros from Europe to the US even, and now it's like a few cents when you don't take the few cases when it costs more on the blockchain. But this is an insider, I think. Yeah, so I think cheaper brings the global movement there.
Maybe start, because you're nodding.
Sure. So I think it's a great idea, and I think eventually we'll see every single country and governments that want to stay on the edge will have their own cryptocurrency. Crypto ruble is one of the examples. Now think about Estonia. I think Estonia will be the first country, one of the first countries in the world that will truly implement decentralized maybe mechanisms within governments and maybe even decentralized national currency. This is like. Obviously, countries works as a corporations right now. They try to stay on the edge. They try to implement the best, like the most innovative solution. And blockchain is something when you think about crypto ruble, again, this is a reference to decentralized crypto exchanges, because I think in the nearest future, nearest 5 years, we'll still see the very tight connection between the crypto and fiat currencies, and putting national currencies on the blockchain is a step forward to simplify that process. So again, with the crypto ruble, decentralized exchanges have the access to fiat currencies basically now. And I think we'll see that thing across different governments.
Yeah, I share your opinion. You always have to think about that. My grandmother will still like to use cash money, so we have to make a way to correlate with this. So I can't say, Grandma, please use this iPhone. You will you will have to pay with this in the future. But yeah, I think when we talk about long term, it's definitely something that's this normal way of paying will disappear. I think also in Europe it's still used to use cash to pay. In America, it's already more or less digitalized with cards, which you just swipe, like credit cards they are called. Yeah.
Well, I can only agree with the previous speakers that it's a brilliant idea, and well, I believe it can not only make the whole process transparent, but also to greatly reduce costs, because right now only banks have access to direct transfers. So basically, the individual entities should use banks to transfer money one to each other. And if something like crypto ruble gets implemented, then that means that I can directly transfer money to my friend without paying any commissions to any large institutions. So I think that's the future of the money system. And it's great that traditional currencies start moving in this way.
Can you guys each speak to the future of banks? Anybody from traditional business? You know, we're used to, I need to do a transaction, it goes through the bank. Doesn't so much apply anymore if you're dealing in Ethereum and so on. Speak to the future of banks. What do they look like?
When I think about crypto, probably everybody here in the room has the credit card, debit card, not one even. And I think what will drive financial sector in terms of blockchain, I mean, won't be the developed world. It will be probably driven from the developing economies, from the 3.5 billion unbanked population of the world. So when we talk about banks, I would rather talk about like the new age banks, the economies where what we have right now will be leapfrogged with the using of blockchain technologies.
That would be actually a perfect question for my co-founder, Martin Mischke. He co-founded a couple of years ago Bitvala, which is one of the biggest payment providers in Europe. Also getting a bank. I don't know if I can say that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think so. About the future of banks. So I think that right now the banks, when you make, for example, a SWIFT transaction, it's always going through the US. So there is a centralization within the banking sector. There is a centralization which is focused in North America. And this is something which makes the whole system not very efficient. And so I think that we will see some companies, and a lot of them who are now trying to be a payment provider, really extending on their services which they provide, and that they will be the banks of the future. And this is actually just repeating from my co-founder.
Well, in addition to what the previous guy said, I think that one of the important things that banks now do, you can put money on a deposit, you can get money as a credit. Of course, there are projects which make this decentralized, but I think that for some really large amounts of money, the role of banks will still be quite important in that.
I think like for banks to play a major role in the future, they really have to transform. So I think that I think that some banks, due to the development of the next 10, 20 years, will not be able to operate efficiently and cutting their costs. So if they don't adopt, and I know that it's common knowledge within banks, if they don't adopt, they will be overthrown by new banks. It doesn't mean that the banking system collapse, and I'm not prospecting, like I'm not saying that we will have a world crisis or something like this. I'm just saying that really banks need to see the changes, and it's right now much more efficient to use blockchain and cutting costs on that side.
Just to add to that, but they can't.
That's right. That's right.
Because like if you think about the IT in the big retail bank, and you think how much effort and how much resources you need to put to replace just one system, it just takes years, I would rather say. And it's if you think like more globally, if you think in broader perspective, then for a single startup that understands that problem, it's way easier to build the company from scratch to solve the same problem that the old-fashioned banks solve with this old-fashioned corporate systems.
Yeah, can I add something? Like I totally agree with you on that. I mean, like we spoke also to one of the biggest banks in Germany, and it was like, okay, so we were already on a very, very high level. And then it was like, okay, but you know, I'm not responsible for this one, so I need to involve this guy, and then this guy, and then this guy. It's really complicated, and actually, banks, when they would change something, they would, I don't know how to say this in English, but cut off their own arm or something like this. That's right. So I think this is definitely a big problem, and but I think in the next few years they will realize maybe eventually that it has to be necessary, and let's see where it takes us.
Yeah. Okay, prepare questions. We're coming close to the close of the session, so I'd like to have a few questions from the audience at the end. One of the really charming things I saw in the early stage of blockchain that attracted me was a kind of micro-lending organization where sort of eBay businesses in the UK could borrow money from Bitcoin lenders who provided their Bitcoin in tiny micro-payments. And the only companies that were really qualified to distribute these loans to were really solid kind of UK-based eBay firms. But the people lending to them, you know, might have been like Indonesian or African people with tiny amounts of Bitcoin. You know, so all of a sudden you had the developing world lending to, you know, the very developed world. Which brings me to my final question. And the question is this just a utopian dream and really rubbish, or is it true? When trade barriers open, globalization lifts billions out of poverty.
Well, I think that, yes, of course. For example, as we all know, the main center of Bitcoin mining is in China, so this thing is already helping Chinese to earn a lot of money the way they couldn't earn before. And in addition to that, what you you have just said, it's also true that now even people in even most distant corners of the world can take part in the global financial system. For example, for India, people usually have trouble moving their money abroad. They have strict regulation for that and so on. And the blockchain and cryptocurrency solve that problem for them. They can just use them and pay or receive money to any entity in the world.
Yeah, I would agree on that. I mean, we saw it with the internet in the 90s, or like actually just after 2000, when the whole world suddenly got access to information. And information is key. Information gives you knowledge, and information gives you the ability to see what is actually possible. And when you see what is possible, it inspires you. And when you are inspired, you just need the right technology to do that it's easy and achievable. And right now, so we are inspired. We inspired the world with the internet. And right now, we give them the tool to actually take use of it and make transactions. When we break it down to financial ones, for example, what was reserved for the financial class, what you just said. Yeah, definitely, this is the second step. And yeah, the third step will come.
I would say yes and no. So if you think about what, sorry for bringing it up, but M-Pesa did in Kenya, for example, or Tala Mobile with microfinancing did in Kenya, and now doing in Philippines, it's obviously improving the level of life of locals, but you hardly can say that like an average Kenyan can now buy a new Jag, or what it all depends on what you consider as a poverty level. Is it a poverty level in terms of an average African country or an average European, for example? But obviously globalization and opening the trading barriers will for sure improve the life of average Filipinian, Kenyan.
And so, to the audience, we need 1 or 2 questions in the closing minutes before the drinks are cracked open. Any questions on the topic of trade and arbitration? Come on, somebody has a burning question there, a really gnarly question for our panel. No, that set the bar a little high. Any question? No. Okay, yeah, go ahead, please.
So when I think about arbitration, it's like the difference between pricing and exchange price, something like that. Is there like a platform for that today where you can arbitrage trades on different platforms, like different exchanges? We're talking about the arbitrage. I don't know.
Yeah, you're talking about the arbitrage. Yeah, you can like you mean you buy on one place and then sell on the other place and then win the premier. Yeah.
Are the companies doing arbitrage trading?
Yeah, a lot of them doing that. So a lot of them doing that, and the problem with not the problem, but the opportunity with the arbitrage is not actually the difference in price of Bitcoin, for example, if we're talking about the crypto. Not the difference in price in Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is the same. You just have a discount in terms of like national currency of different countries, because it's whether hard to transfer monies from that jurisdiction or it's banned to work with cryptocurrencies or something like that. That's why you see like let's say $5,000 per Bitcoin in the US, and then you see like $6,500 in South Korea, for example. That's because it's really hard to buy Bitcoin in South Korea, basically. But it doesn't mean you can easily arbitrage on that, because
It makes it harder, because it's easier for me to transfer money from Australia to a European bank account to buy Bitcoin.
Can you say it again?
Actually, it's cheaper, it's cheaper to transfer money from Australia to Europe to Bitcoin than what it is to buy from exchange from Australia.
It's like the answer I have is basically the access to the financial services within the countries and the attitude the financial services has towards the cryptocurrencies.
Global product that's still relying on regional players and that not getting back. Yeah. Because it cost me $6,000 to buy Bitcoin in my Australian bank account, right? It's cheaper than the transfer from Australia to my bank account.
Yeah, but this is actually like a normal economics lesson. So actually, when you have totally efficient markets, there shouldn't be a possibility for arbitrage. But right now we are at the beginning of a new technology and a new currencies, and when there are not so many people who are trading and the liquidity sometimes is missing, then something like this that's from Australia transferring somewhere else is cheaper than buying it in Australia. So I mean, but just imagine now more people getting this information and actually buying through Europe and selling in Australia. So then the price in Europe would get up because more people will go to Europe and buy, and the price in Australia will go down because more people will selling in Australia. So we are looking right now at a little bit inefficient market where some people are taking advantage, but only to this extent they can. So when they don't have the capital, they don't have the liquidity to do so much of arbitration, then yeah, it is a problem and we are in an efficient market. But for example, things like happened a couple of months ago when really in Japan and Korea the prices like exploded and we had a gap of I think $800 US dollars. I think it was 800. Don't name me on that. But there was like something crazy, and this won't happen so fast again. And this gap was there for I think a couple of days. And normally, when you look at the financial markets now, you see some gaps like this too, where in exchanges, but over the time it's getting down. And just one nice book you can read on that is the Flash Boys. So actually, in the United States, when there were like lots of exchanges, the one guy or like one company built a direct line from one exchange to another to be like a millisecond faster with the information, and then make an arbitrage on that than the others. So right now we are miles away on that, but this is a good thing.
Our time's up. Just one final.
Just one small thing. That's not really my topic, but yesterday I was at a blockchain conference in Netherlands and spoke to a guy who told me that he's doing exactly that, doing large arbitrage with millions of dollars in volume daily in cryptocurrencies, and he gets good profits on that. So that's definitely possible. Fortunately, I don't remember the name or company, but that's just...
Yeah, exactly. So Vitaly, Vasily, and thank you very much. Put your hands together. A great panel. I'm sure you'll agree.